Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Monday. It is February 10th. It's 2020. We have 9 basketball games to talk about here on today's slate. I am joined by my good buddy, Genie for 07. Grant, how are you doing, my friend?
Well, life is good. I had a nice little weekend. Took a few days off. Didn't even end up playing XFL, which was a little bit surprising. But, man, just going through everything. This isn't even a heavy – figuring out all the new rotations. It's always fun. Luckily, we got the All-Star break, so I can look through things a whole bunch more. But it's going to be an interesting second half of the season.
Yeah, I'll be honest. It's Daytona 500 week. I do not play a lot of NBA this week. So, it is definitely a one lineup night per night type of week for me. So, and, if I wasn't doing the podcast and I didn't have to do research for, premium content, I probably wouldn't play at all. But if I'm going to do the research and stuff, I'm going to play one team. So, well, let's jump in. We'll talk about this 9-gamer. We do have some Vegas totals, not as many as we were kind of hoping for, but we get started here with Charlotte at Detroit. No total in this game. Not shocking, right? Nicholas Batum is out. Cody Martin is out. And then on the Detroit side, Blake Griffin's out. Kennard's out. Civi's out. Derrick Rose is doubtful, and Brandon Knight is questionable. Let's start here with the Charlotte side of things. Charlotte, they kind of did some buyouts, through this whole process. So, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is gone, and Marvin Williams is gone. So, the minutes should be pretty secure here for Charlotte moving forward, which I kind of like. What are your thoughts when it comes to Charlotte in this matchup?
I mean, I'm trying to figure that out. Obviously, Detroit's a little bit different of a team. Zeller has kind of been up and down in terms of minutes recently, and now he's getting to match up versus Detroit, which I think that if Morris comes back, they're probably not going to go with Thon too much in this game. Probably throw Christian Wood in the 5 going up against the Hornets. So I think Zeller, although he's only had 21 and 13 minutes in the last 2 games, could potentially be in for a little bit extra workload. I still have to look into it more, but as of right now, he's a guy that I could potentially go with. Bridges, his price being where it is at 6.2K, he's been playing the minutes recently, and this isn't a horrible matchup for him, but probably a guy that I'm going to end up crossing off my list. It's not the worst play in the world. Rozier, pretty much the same thing as always. He'll get the minutes, he can get the usage, but not the guy I'm looking at. It's really kind of the same thing that we talk about almost every single time. Graham is the guy, 7,100, probably a little bit too cheap. It's right where he's been priced around, but just coming off a 50-point game. Had a rough stretch after coming off that sickness where he didn't do too well for a few games. Maybe box score watchers are probably going to pay attention to that a little bit too much, but he came into the last game in good form. Going up against Detroit is not a bad matchup with all the injuries that have happened. So I think Graham is the main guy I'm looking at, potentially Zeller, depending on if Morris ends up coming back.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you on Graham. I think he's in play just about any slate. The guys that I'm kind of looking at here, I think Bridges plays minutes. I think he's fine. I just think Malik Monk plays just around the same amount of minutes, and he's team bench. He's going to get that second team usage. So why pay up for a guy like Bridges when I can pay down for Malik Monk and get a few less minutes and more usage? And the other guy that I want to point out here is PJ Washington. With Marvin Williams gone now, PJ Washington should play around 28 to 30 minutes a night. And, he got the start the other night against Dallas. He should draw another start here. He's too cheap. This guy is a guy that has 30-plus point upside, and he's too cheap here at 4,400. So I think P.J. Washington and Malik Monk are, my 2 main targets from Charlotte in this game. Outside of that, they really spread the minutes around everywhere else. Caleb Martin plays minutes. Biyombo plays minutes. Jalen McDaniels played a lot of the fourth quarter the other night. I know it was kind of a game that was ugly against Dallas in that one, but for me, I'm looking at Malik Monk, I'm looking at PJ Washington, and I think you could play Graham, like I said, in any matchup. Let's go to the Detroit side of things. Obviously Drummond gone. A lot of guys questionable or doubtful or out. But we saw now Christian Wood's going to play 30 minutes a night. He's 7,200, but he gets a fantastic matchup here against Charlotte. It's hard not to like Christian Wood, even at his price point in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matchup versus Charlotte. They're the worst team in the league going up against bigs. Morris has been out for a while. It looks like there's a pretty good chance that he's going to play. He's listed as probable right now. So Wood, even at 7,200, he's just been absolutely crushing. And I expect it again here going up against Charlotte. Thon, don't know if I'm going to end up going with him. I mean, he's priced at 4,300. He has had some good games recently, but I'm not really certain how it's going to be affected his minutes with Morris coming back. I assume that Morris would end up taking up most of the minutes. So those 30 minutes for him are probably going to go back down to 10, 15 again. And so he's really not a guy that I'm looking at. Bruce Brown comes back, but with Wood, with Jackson eating up all the usage, he's getting all the minutes. He has a potential to go off in the spot here. It's not a bad matchup versus Charlotte, and he has been shooting bad recently, but I don't see a ton of upside with these other guys eating up the usage in this game. So he's a guy that I'm going to cross off the list. Reggie Jackson, priced at 6,600. There definitely is some upside. He's been taking a ton of shots recently, like 17, 18, 24, 16 in the last 4 games, and 16-shot game. Shot terrible, and he only played 24 minutes, but he's getting the low 30s minutes. Throw's still out. I expect him to be around the same volume again. If he gets hot, he can absolutely crush. He's been 1 assist off of a double-double in 2 of the last 3 games here, 6,600. I think there's still some upside of that price tag. Like him a lot. Outside of that, like probably not any other guys I'm going to go with unless Morris, we hear that he's going to end up playing enough minutes. Like he's been out for a week and a half. They could ease him back in, but I don't think they really have any desire to just ease him back in. Wouldn't be surprised if he was around 30 minutes. Probably an uptick in usage without Drummond there. So I don't mind him unless we hear about a low or a minutes limit in his first game back.
Yeah, obviously I hope we get some kind of clarity on minutes, but we might not. But I think Demboya is a guy that probably loses minutes here. So the guy that I like Langston Galloway, depending on like what type of value opens up today. I think Galloway's in play. He's going to continue to play 30 minutes with Sevi and Rose out. So I like Reggie Jackson too. It's really hard to stomach paying 6,600.
Yeah, I know it's tough, but like without Drummond there, with Griffin still out, like he's not a guy that we wanted to pay this much for in the past, but the usage has been consistent and he's been involved in other facets of the game. Like, I don't know. It's always tough to pull that trigger on that price tag, but honestly, he's paid it off in the last 3 games. I expect him to do it again.
Yeah, 30, 28, 34, 30 usage rate for Reggie Jackson in the last 4 games. If he's going to continue to have a 30% usage rate, he's probably too cheap. So like that call, got to look into that. I just need to look into it a little bit more. So
yeah, it's not a normal thing that you say is Reggie Jackson
having 30% usage.
Yeah.
Brooklyn at Indiana taking on the Pacers. 220 total here. Pacers favored by 7 in this game. Kyrie out. Everybody else good to go in this game. 2 pretty healthy teams here. Anything standing out to you on the Brooklyn side?
I honestly don't think so. I mean, LeVert's been absolutely crushing recently. Been playing low 30s, high 20s minutes and putting up 18 to 20 shots in the last few games since he started getting the start and playing all these minutes. And I expect it to happen again. He's probably going to see a similar usage rate, but he's gone up against some fairly fast-paced teams, Toronto, Golden State, Phoenix. So that's why he's had a high volume of shots, and he shot really well, 6 or 7 from 3. He's shooting 65% from 3 over the last 3 games, the ones that he's actually outpaced his current price tag. And he's been shooting really well from the field, too. I don't really expect this to continue. And this is not the type of matchup where it's probably going to happen. If he's going to go unowned, then I think that you can definitely take a shot on him. But matchup versus Indy, a slower-paced matchup, I don't really expect him to do what he's been doing recently. It's definitely going to have a tougher time, and he's due for a little bit of variance. Dinwiddie, priced at 7,900. Tournament flyer. Like, I know that he's had some rough games recently since Burton came into the lineup, but he did have a good game going up against Toronto last time. Very easily could end up doing it again. I don't know if I'll end up going with him. I definitely don't mind if he's going to come in low-owned. A good spot. Jared Allen, can't really trust his minutes. Not a guy that I really want to go with. He's been playing too few recently. They might need a little bit of size, but there's no reason to think that Jordan might be the guy that takes it. He's priced at 5K. I think he offers a little bit of upside, but Sabonis is going to eat into his rebounding totals. So not a guy I'm going with. Prince, 4,900. Not a guy I'm going with. Like, it's fine. It's a decent tournament flyer, but I have no real interest in playing him. Joe Harris, Temple, both always in play in tournaments, but this is not a good spot for them. So realistically, I'm not going to be surprised if I don't end up playing a single person from the Nets in this game, unless Levert's going to come in at low ownership, which after what he's done recently, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of interest in Brooklyn here either. Tournament darts, I think Dinwiddie, Levert are tournament darts here. Allen's always a guy that is a potential tournament dart, but like him and Jordan have just really just been splitting the minutes. I just don't see a ton of upside for either one of these guys. The person that I really like in this game is Brogdon on the other side. Brooklyn's been a team this season that allow the top 5 fantasy points to opposing point guards pretty much the entire season. They allow the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing centers. So like your 2 main pieces on the Pacers in this game that, you want to play usually, Sabonis and Brogdon, are in fantastic matchups in this game.
Yeah, I really like the matchup for Brogdon. I like the price tag, 6,900. He hasn't been crushing this price tag recently, staying around the mid-30s in terms of fantasy points, but the minutes are there. The shooting hasn't been great. If he has a good shooting night, he can absolutely end up crushing his price tag. Sabonis has been weird recently. Like, he just has not been doing great, and they haven't brought down his price tag at all. He's still sitting there at 16 or 9,600. It's a decent matchup. It's an up-paced matchup. He absolutely has the ability to get that 60-point upside, but he hasn't been paying off this price tag consistently. It's strictly a GPP play for me, which is weird considering Sabonis was pretty much only a cash game play earlier on in the season. But at his price tag, I just can't justify playing him in cash just because he has been a little bit inconsistent recently. And with Oladipo eating up a little bit more of the usage, Sabonis just hasn't really been getting it done. Oladipo, on the other hand, is now down to 4,200. He has not been paying off much more than this price tag since he came into the league. But you look at the shot totals, 11, 14, 17, 14. In the last game, he got held out of for rest reasons, so he should be right back playing probably 28 minutes again. If he has a decent shooting night, he can absolutely crush. Oladipo could be one of my favorite plays on the entire slate at this moment.
I did not realize Oladipo was that cheap.
Yeah, they just keep dropping his price tag because he's not shooting great.
Did they drop it because he didn't play the other night because of rest? Like he played 28 minutes against Toronto, put up 25 fantasy points
in that game too. Like, he had another bad game and they dropped it down even when he was resting, and they just haven't adjusted it since.
Yeah, Oladipo is a fantastic play in this game. I think that he's going to. I think he's going to pop on projection models quite a bit today. So definitely going to be looking out for Oladipo in this one. Atlanta at Orlando, no total in this game. It's a back-to-back for Atlanta. Capella is not supposed to return until after the All-Star break, so he's out. Reddish, questionable. Benbury, questionable. These guys have been out for a while. Labassiere, not expected to play. Aminu, DJ, Isaac on the Orlando side, all still out. Let's start here with the the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young coming off of a really strong game against the Knicks, played 48 minutes. Obviously, double overtime, allows you to get to 73 fantasy points. He is so expensive in this game. Tough defensive matchup here against the Orlando Magic, who have been one of the top defensive efficiency teams all season. What's standing out to you for the Hawks?
Yeah, it's a little bit tough coming on the second end of a back-to-back against a tough Orlando team that plays good defense and plays at a slow pace. I don't know if I can go with anyone really. Like, Dedmon may end up getting minutes, but he's also coming off on the second minute of back-to-back. Played 33 minutes last night. Not terrible, but still second minute of back-to-back on the team. I don't know entirely if this is the right spot to go with him. I don't mind it, but like 4,400, it's just too cheap where you kind of have to consider it. Not playing Collins on the second end of back-to-back priced at 8,500. Probably not playing her after he just played 40-plus minutes. You can play it a few different ways in your head where Teague ends up getting a little bit more run in the game. Priced at 4,500, I think that he offers a little bit of value. It's really just Teague and Dedmon. I mean, I'm never going to argue with taking a shot on Trae Young in tournaments, even after last night. Like, he's still a guy that I wouldn't be surprised if they rolled him out for pretty much the entirety of the game here, just because that's what they tend to do. And he's a guy that can get hot from behind the arc, get hot anywhere, and end up with 70 points in any given matchup. If you want to play him in tournaments, that's fine, but everything in this situation, second in the back, double OT last night, tough Orlando team defensively, slow-paced match. Everything kind of points towards him and Collins not being great plays. So really the only guys I'm looking at too much are the cheaper guys in this game.
For me, like, this dude's coming off of a 48-minute night. Just returned from, like, he missed a game because he banged up his ankle. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if Atlanta sits him in this game. Like, that's where I'm leaning. Like, him and Collins, like 48 and 50 minutes against the Knicks on Sunday. Like, sit these guys down. You're probably not going to beat Orlando anyway. Herter played like 48 minutes. So if that happens, is going to open up a ton of value here on Atlanta. If that doesn't happen, I just don't have interest. Like, these guys are going to be gassed after playing a double overtime game, flying into Orlando, facing a really good defensive team. Like, just really no interest on the Atlanta side here outside of large field tournaments. And even in large field tournaments, I just think there's better options that we're going to get to on this slate. As far as the Magic go, they're a team that I kind of struggle with here too. Like, I like the spot for Vooch. I think he's super solid. 8,900 is a tough ask in my opinion. Could he crush his price tag? Sure. Aaron Gordon is a guy that has upside in any matchup. He could crush his price tag. Fultz's price has come up. Fournier's price has come up. Like, I'm just not seeing a ton of value here for Orlando, but we do also have to respect that this is a major pace-up spot for them going up against Atlanta.
Yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic matchup going up against Atlanta. Obviously, it's a pace-up matchup. They're not great defensively. It's a good spot for Vooch, Gordon, Fultz, Fournier, Ross. Like, it's a good spot for all of them, but I'm really not looking at almost any of them. I don't know what the spread is right now. Do we have it? I'm not sure if we have it right now just because of the game not ending too long ago, but I can't imagine this game staying close. We don't know exactly if someone's going to sit or not. And, okay, it's currently set at -6. Maybe Vegas thinks, oh, wait, they already took it off. I can't imagine this game staying too close. Like, check on the spread tomorrow, check on the total, check to see where everything's at, because it does line up really well for Vooch. And even at 8,900, a matchup versus Atlanta, he can end up crushing. But if someone ends up sitting, if Collins or Trey end up sitting, it could very easily turn into a game where they sit one or both of them. And I really don't have any interest in any of the priced up guys. But Ross, I feel like this is a pretty good spot for him. Like, paced up matchup. He is getting the minutes recently, right around 30. He's taking shots. He has not shot great recently, but the volume has absolutely been there. 14, 13, 16 shots in the last 3 games. Pace up matchup. He could get a little bit higher than that. If he gets hot, they'll keep feeding him the ball. He's a guy that could go for 35 plus in this spot going up against Atlanta if this game stays close.
All right, moving on. Minnesota at Toronto. No total in this game. D'Angelo Russell is questionable. Layman's out. Marc Gasol and Powell are still out. And Kyle Lowry is questionable. Let's start here with the Minnesota side of things. Obviously, like, the Timberwolves are all dependent on D'Angelo Russell, in my opinion. Like, if he plays or if he doesn't play, makes a huge difference when looking at Minnesota in this game.
Yeah, no. If he ends up playing, I don't really know if I have any interest in anyone outside of maybe a flyer on Cat. Russell coming into the game is going to mean McLaughlin, Beasley, both those guys' usage is going to go down drastically. Like, I know they've been putting up big games recently. They could put up a big game again, but if Russell's in there, in all likelihood, Russell's in Towns is going to eat up the entirety of the usage for the whole team. It's that simple. If Russell ends up sitting, McLaughlin, I could see playing. Like, he has just been putting up big games ever since he got there and Wiggins is gone. Everything, his price is up, but the volume's been there. He's been dishing out dimes. Like, everything's been there. And Beasley, he's just a shooter that loves to shoot. He's finally in an offense where they need a little bit more usage until Russell ends up getting back. So I have no problem with playing him at 4,500. Both of them are fine plays. Just it all depends on Russell. If Russell's in there, I'm crossing out nearly everyone outside of maybe Cat on this slate here.
Yeah, if Russell plays, I don't have a ton of interest. I do think McLaughlin is in play regardless. I think he's earned minutes at this point. So I hope, and like, if Russell plays and he's on the bench, then like I don't have as much interest. But if Russell sits, it's hard if Russell sits in this game not to like Malik Beasley too. His price got raised, but coming off a game, played 29 minutes. It's hard not to like him in this spot as well. If Russell sits, so Minnesota, we're just going to kind of be watching the news here. It's looking like Culver is the guy that's taking the biggest hit with the moves here for Minnesota. Okaji is taking a big hit, but it looks like they want to play these guys they traded for. So all aboard. The Toronto side of things here, Kyle Lowry sits. I think Van Vliet is a guy you could definitely look at. The guy that we've been talking about a lot here recently in large field tournaments is Terrence Davis. Another spot that I think Terrence Davis is very much in play. He's gone over 35 fantasy points in 3 of the last 4 games. He's still under 5K. $1,000 price increase could scare people off, but Davis more dependent on if Kyle Lowry plays or not.
I kind of feel like everyone's kind of dependent on if Kyle Lowry plays.
This game, question mark, because we're waiting on all the news.
Yeah, the point guard, which point guards are in the game is going to drastically change who you end up playing here. If Lowry's out, Davis, yeah, absolutely fantastic play. I don't care about the uptick in price. If Lowry's out, he's going to get the minutes, and he's going to probably end up crushing his value. Like Van Vliet will get an uptick in usage if Lowry is out. Ibaka, probably a guy that I'm going to avoid. I know they'll need him in the game a decent amount. He should play high 30s minutes. Probably get a decent amount of usage. Could end up being his price tag, but 6,500 I feel like is about where he should be priced at. Siakam 8,100. I don't care any given matchup. He can always be his price tag. In play for tournaments, but probably priced at where he should be. I'll give him an uptick if Lowry ends up sitting, but it's definitely a spot where Lowry kind of determines who you want to end up playing.
Yep, I 100% agree. Really just going to be patiently waiting on news in this entire game. Sacramento at Milwaukee, 227 total here. Milwaukee favored by 14.5. Bagley and Holmes, Alex Len are all out. Jabari Parker is questionable. And on the Milwaukee side, Giannis is questionable and Hill is out. Let's start here with Sacramento. What are we looking at here on the Kings?
I mean, it's a little bit tough to end up figuring this out. I think if Parker finally ends up playing, they're going to need a little bit of size going up against Milwaukee. I could see him just falling into a good amount of minutes almost immediately. Like Giles the other night got 28 minutes, 3,500. Like just the fact that they're going to need size. I don't know if they're going to do it again. I kind of hope they don't because I don't know if I'm going to end up playing him. But Parker and Giles sitting there at 3,500 with all the bigs out going up against Milwaukee while Brolo and Giannis in the game. If Giannis doesn't end up playing, gives a slight downtick to those guys. But Bjelica sitting there at 6K, fast up-paced game. I know it's a good defensive matchup, but if Giannis ends up playing, I could see playing Bjelica even at this price tag. He definitely offers a little bit of upside. Buddy always offers some upside, priced about where he should be. Fox, he's been not great recently. This game has a large chance of a blowout. I'm kind of waiting on Giannis. We don't really know if he's going to end up playing or not for personal reasons, so it's something to look at in the morning, but he'll largely dictate who ends up playing in this game. It's tough to look at the night before, but if Giannis is out, definitely gives a bit of an uptick to guys like Fox, Hyde, and Bjelica in case this game stays close. If Parker ends up playing, I can see playing either him or Giles just because they're super low price tag.
Giannis, questionable, does not want to play against Sacramento.
I mean, do you blame him?
No, I don't. That's the thing. I don't blame him at all. Like, do your thing, man. Open up value for me in DFS. That's fine. Yeah, obviously we're gonna have to wait and see if Parker is active or not. Like, it makes a difference in my opinion. Like you said, they're gonna need some size here. So like Giles is a guy that can play minutes. Bjelica, I think, is a phenomenal play. If Parker doesn't play, even if Giannis sits, I still like Bjelica. Like, eventually you have to think like, Fox is gonna get it going. It's not like he's been terrible, but he hasn't been great. If this game stays close, Fox is a guy you definitely think, like if Giannis sits and you're playing like Middleton, Bledsoe, probably Ilyasova too, like you run it back with a guy like Fox, hoping that the game stays close. Like it becomes a really interesting game stack if Giannis sits.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it becomes the same thing it pretty much always is when Giannis sits. Middleton, Bledsoe become core plays. Ilyasova's priced at 3,200, becomes an absolute chalk spot. Obviously, Giannis wasn't really expected to sit, needs for personal reasons. So if we get news on it, then this is kind of the chalk spot, and you want to bring it back with Sacramento guys. Kind of depends on the Jabari news, but you end up playing the big guys. I don't know. It's super interesting, and I always hate it when Giannis sits and they have to think guys priced a little bit too low because Middleton 7,900 too low price considering what he can end up doing with Giannis there, and without Giannis there and the potential usage. Bledsoe, same thing. Brolo, Divincenzi, whatever his name is, Ilyasova. All these guys are going to end up being the chalk on the slate. Same thing it is with every single time that Giannis ends up sitting. And chances are you probably eat it. I'd be a little bit more apt to play Bledsoe over Middleton just because of the price difference, but they're all very much in play.
Yeah, plenty of different ways to attack this spot if Giannis sits, but Ilyasova at 3,200 would become the massive chalk, in my opinion, on this slate.
If you have 80% ownership on you may possibly be underweight.
Yeah. Like, DraftKings has done a great job throughout the year when we get news on studs sitting, like changing, adjusting pricing. But like, I don't think anybody really expected Giannis to potentially sit in this game looking at the pricing. So, all right, moving right along here. We have Utah at Dallas, 222 total. Dallas favored by 1 in this game. It's a back-to-back for Utah. On the Dallas side, Luka and Powell are still out. Let's start here with Utah. Anything standing out to you here?
Not really. I mean, like always, Mitchell, Gobert, both in play, both have some upside. Mitchell hasn't been playing great recently. Conley coming back and playing minutes is kind of eating into his production. Like, it's eaten into Ingles' production greatly. Gobert has not been doing greatly. Honestly, like, this is a 9-game slate. Everyone's like, there's a lot of mispricings. There's a lot of good plays. I'm kind of crossing out Utah. Like, I'm just kind of crossing out all these guys. Don't really feel a need to play any of them. I think if you're going to get any upside from any of them, it's probably going to be Conley. But on the second end of back-to-back, I'm really not going to be surprised if they end up sitting him. I don't – this game's of like, wait for the Conley news. Wait to see if anyone's sitting on the second end of back-to-back, and that'll kind of determine if Conley's out. Ingles, Clarkson, both could be potentially in for a big increase in either playing time or fantasy production or both. But as of right now, I don't really know if I want to play a single person in this matchup unless we get news that someone's going to be sitting.
Yeah, the guy that I think I have the most interest here is Gobert. I think he has some solid upside. I don't mind Mitchell. I think Mitchell's kind of priced right around where he should be, but I like Rudy Gobert in this spot. I think that, if you want to take a shot on him, I don't really have an issue playing him at all, but on the Dallas side of things, Porzingis obviously did not play Saturday for rest purposes. He's been dealing with a little bit of a injury, but his usage has been absolutely insane when Luka's been off the floor. What are you looking at here for Dallas?
I get it's a tough matchup going against Utah, but it's a second of a back-to-back. I think Porzingis is going to crush it. I absolutely love him. One of my favorite higher price spend-ups. He's going to go for over 50. He pretty much does it every single time Luka's not in the game. I don't care if it's a tough matchup. Outside of him, like Brunson, Curry, Hardaway are all fine plays. Like, figure out which one you want to end up going with, but I'd probably be more apt to play Curry than the other guys. I think there's a spot where they end up giving WCS some minutes. Obviously, going up against Gobert, they're going to need a little bit more size. I'm not sure Porzingis is the best matchup going up against him. He got 25 going up against Charlotte. I think it's a spot where we could see WCS seeing another 25, 30-minute game. So I really like him, and that's pretty much it. It's Porzingis and WCS. Like, if you want to game stack it up, if you're rolling it back with Gobert, if Conley ends up getting ruled out or some other guy ends up getting ruled out and it becomes a little bit more advantageous to play some Utah guys, I could absolutely see throwing in Brunson, Curry, or Hardaway, with Curry being my favorite of the three. But right now it's Porzingis is an absolute lock and load, and WCS is a guy that I could take a few shots on in tournaments.
Yeah, Seth, obviously a guy that has upside. He's going to shoot. The only thing that kind of concerns me, like, this whole situation is, like, Courtney Lee out of nowhere is playing minutes off the bench too. So the whole situation is kind of weird, but I don't mind the Willie Cauley-Stein tournament play, and Seth Curry is a guy that like I really don't have an issue taking a shot on him in large field tournaments here. San Antonio at Denver. We got a 221 total here. Denver favored by 8 in this game. Nothing on the injury report for San Antonio night before. Will Barton is out, Porter Jr. is out, and Plumlee's out on Denver. What are we looking at here on San Antonio?
A little bit of a tough matchup with San Antonio going up against Denver, playing in Denver, but DeRozan, Aldridge, like Murray, he did have that big game the other night, but still, we've seen it at the beginning of the season. We saw it again last night. The Spurs are a little bit tough to peg on any given night. He's playing 25 to 30 minutes every single night at his current price tag. Offers a little bit of upside if he ends up going like he did against Sacramento, but it's not really something we can count on. It's a tough matchup going up against Denver. They got Murray back in the game, and it's not an easy defensive matchup. So going up against Jamal Murray, going up against the Denver defense where they're a little bit more healthy, even though they still are missing some guys, not a spot where I really want to end up going with DeJounte Murray. DeRozan, a little bit up and down. Aldridge, a little bit up and down. It's the same thing as always. But the price tags, considering what DeRozan's usage has been over the last month or so, he has some upside. He has a 50-point game in him. I like him, even though it's a tough matchup. I'm all right with LMA, but price tag's about where it is. I'm not taking a shot on White, Lyles, Forbes, any of these other guys unless we get news of someone sitting. So as of this moment right now, night before, it's DeRozan being my favorite play from the game, Aldridge being a possible play, and then a cross off of the rest of the guys.
Yeah, just not a ton of interest here outside of DeRozan. I think you can take a shot on LaMarcus Aldridge if you want to. Like, I don't think that it's not a spot that I would necessarily talk you off of. So for me, I don't have a ton of interest here outside of if you're playing some of these San Antonio or Denver guys, like if you're playing Jokic, if you're playing maybe Jordan McRae or somebody, like we'll talk about it here in a second, but if you're playing some of these Denver guys, obviously I don't mind, running it back. All right, Grant, let's talk the other side of this game. Let's talk Denver. I think like going into this slate, they're one of the biggest question marks for me because like Millsap's back. Some of these guys are back. It's just like, are they going to like give McRae minutes, with these injuries? Is it going to be Monte Morris? What do you think here when it comes to Denver?
Yeah, it's a little bit tough to peg, and I think this isn't really the spot it's a real McRae spot. I could see him getting in the game, eating up a bunch of usage and getting a few minutes, but honestly, I'm not going to be surprised with more likely outcome is that they don't give him a ton of minutes because they still have Gary Harris. They're probably going to need his defense to shut down DeRozan a bit. I know he's he's more entrenched in this offense. The Denver offense or Denver defense kind of runs on a little bit of trust on each other. It's why they've been so good defensively, and that why you see guys like Barton and Murray year over year ended up getting better on the defensive end. So I'm not sure they're going to end up giving him a ton of minutes until he's fully entrenched in this offense and defense. But he could potentially do it tonight. And at 4,900 in a spot going up against San Antonio that's not really a good defensive team, we could see him getting the minutes. Millsap, Grant, with Millsap back, I'm not trusting his minutes. He put up a big game the other night. He's not going to play a ton of minutes. You can always take a shot on him in tournaments, but not a guy I'm going to end up going with. Grant, with Millsap coming back, minutes are going to go down. Not a spot I want to go with him. Joker and Murray are the two main guys I'm looking at. By the way, I don't think this is a Morris game. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of production from Morris. I'm not playing him at all. I could be wrong, but just with everyone that's back and everyone that's out and McRae coming in and probably having his first night, I don't see Morris getting a ton of minutes or a ton of usage, or probably even Craig. Craig could do it, but I don't think I'm taking a shot on him. To me, it's Joker and it's Murray. Murray can absolutely have a big game any given night. Going up against the other Murray, not a great defensive matchup, but he could end up going off against any given matchup. He had a big game the other night, but he shot out of his mind. But prior to that, still had a 26-shot game. I believe it was in overtime. But Joker, Murray, two guys that I'm probably looking at in this spot, but I'm not overwhelmingly excited to play either of them. It's just the spend-up guys. You can take a shot on McRae. Wait to hear if we hear any information tomorrow. It's a 7 o'clock game. So he's a guy that you're more swapping over to in the late games if you have some points to make up for. But I think that it'll still likely be, if he is introduced into the rotation, it's still going to be a small number of minutes, just trying to have him figure things out.
See, I like Jamal Murray in this spot a lot. I think this is a good spot for Jokic too. I hate playing Jokic, but I do think this is a
Really?
new. Hey, I gotta say it for like the new people. Like, there's new people that listen to the podcast that don't know, but yeah, I think this is a great spot for Jamal Murray. I think that the defense here. This game is a game that like could tend to have a little bit more pace. Obviously, like San Antonio is a team that's kind of middle of the road pace wise. Denver is the second slowest team in the NBA pace wise. So I think this game could tend to have a little bit more pace, which I think will benefit a guy like Jamal Murray. So especially with Will Barton out, the usage could be up for Murray in this game. But don't sleep on Jokic here. 10-2. He's a guy that could easily go for 60-plus fantasy points. So don't sleep on Jokic. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I got for you, Jokic people. Phoenix at LA take it on the Lakers. 228 total here. Lakers favored by 12 in this game. Ayton is questionable. Baines is out. Tyler Johnson's out. Kaminsky's out. Sarge's out. Lakers good to go. Anything stand out to you for Phoenix?
I mean, if Ayton ends up missing, they're going to need some size. Is it Diallo spot?
Maybe.
I mean, they're not going to have any guys.
By default, I would think it would be Diallo.
Yeah, it's going to definitely be interesting if Baines ends up missing. I think you have to take a shot on Diallo, and Diallo's probably going to end up being the chalk just based on scarcity. They're going to need some size going up against the Lakers with Davis, McGee, and everyone else. So I have to assume that Diallo's going to end up getting the minutes, and he's a decent point per minute guy. Like 3,100 going to – this could be an extreme stars and scrubs slate here just based on the previous night's injuries. If Ayton ends up playing, obviously worth a tournament shot. Even at 9-3, I know he's priced up, but he can have a 60-plus point game at any given time, even against a tough Lakers team that's been really good versus big so far this year. Booker, Oubre, Rubio, it's a tough matchup. Booker is probably my favorite of those three. Like, if Ayton ends up missing, it makes all of them viable plays, like just with the increase in usage and everything. But Booker at 8K is a guy that can go off at any given time. If Ayton ends up playing, then I still have a little bit of interest in Booker, strictly in GPPs. If Ayton is playing, I'm crossing Oubre and Rubio entirely off my list. Bridges, Johnson, pretty much everyone outside of Diallo. If Ayton's out, I'm crushing Diallo off my list. But if Ayton's playing, then I might only play Booker in this game, and that's it.
Yeah, like Phoenix pricing is kind of right where it should be. Oubre has a guy that has, shown some really solid upside. He's been taking a ton of shots here recently. So Oubre has some upside. Rubio's price is fantastic. If you want to take a shot on Rubio in tournaments, I do think he's a guy that could potentially come in lower owned that, has the upside to win you a tournament. So I know he's been terrible recently. I get that, but he's too good of a player in general to keep being stinky. On the Lakers side of things, Anthony Davis and LeBron both put up, 50 to 65 fantasy points in this game. I just don't know if it's enough.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on the rest of the slate here. We might need to pay up for guys. I think both James and Davis are fine plays. It's a good matchup going up against Phoenix. Either one of them can end up crushing here. They're the only two I have interest in. I'm crossing everyone else off the list. There's going to be too much value on the slate, almost no matter how the injuries end up playing out. So everyone else is just a cross off for me. But Davis and James, it's obviously a good matchup. We kind of have to wait and see how chalky they're going to be and how big of a stars and scrubs slate. If there's going to be some mega chalk on a lot of the scrubs, just because we got the 8 news, we got the Milwaukee news, we have 4 potential super chalky guys at the 3K price range, or 3 potential super chalky guys at 3K price range. I could see a lot of other people strictly going for a lot of the other spend up spots. Joker, Trae Young if he ends up playing, Towns, but it all depends on what the ownership of the stars are. Neither James nor Davis pop off the page as great plays in this matchup. Probably going to end up around 50 to 60. One of them will go 60. One of them will get 50. I don't know which one's which. But like neither of them stand off the page. It would strictly be an ownership play based on everything else. Or if you need to pivot based on fading chalk or not fading chalk that end up just not going off. But yeah, numbers say like none of them stand out as great point per dollar plays. It's just kind of the way the slate may end up playing out. So kind of pay attention to Crunch Time Grinders Live tomorrow. That'll more determine it once we get a little bit more news.
All right, let's finish up here with Miami at Golden State. No total in this game. Some question marks here for Miami. You know, back-to-back for Miami. Is Butler going to play? Is Hero going to play? As far as Golden State goes, there's nobody on the injury report outside of, Clay and Curry. What are we looking at when it comes to Miami? I guess, man, this is one of those spots where, like, it stinks that this is the late game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and they're not going to go through shoot-around, so we may not get news until a bit later. This is going to be a tough one, but it may offer you a little bit of ways to pivot off of some of the chalk and maybe the Milwaukee game an hour into lock if you're making some ground up. Like, it offers a huge edge, I think, if you are able to late swap and able to do your research and you can move things around a little bit. Like if everyone ends up playing, I think Bam's a fine play going up against Golden State, but decent chance of a blowout. If Butler ends up sitting, then Bam becomes a really good play, I think, versus Golden State in this game might stay a little bit closer. If Hero and Butler are both out, I think that Nunn, Dragic are both fine plays. I think that Nunn, he's going to end up putting up a large volume of shots, a better defensive matchup, better pace matchup than he's seen in a while. And he still put up 19 shots in the last game, 17 shots in the game before. He's going to end up getting the minutes. I still think he offers some upside. We've seen him put up 40, 50 earlier on this season and even earlier on in the month. We could see another spot like that again. And I don't think he's going to draw a lot of ownership at 6K. I think that he's the guy that I ended up going with. Outside of them, like Derek Jones Jr. going up against Golden State, he's going to end up playing the minutes. He's got upside just based on the pace, and he can do stuff. He can put up a little bit of a dud, but we've seen him put up upside. His price tag of 4,900 is a little bit up, so I don't see him drawing a ton of ownership. But really, like, it all depends on what injuries are going to end up happening, who's going to end up playing. Like, I just don't know exactly who's going to end up being in the game. I mean, we still have Iguodala potentially playing. Like, Jay Crowder could end up playing. I don't know. You have to wait on the news, and we should get some of the news earlier on the day, but we may be waiting for a little bit of other news later on.
Yeah, this is one of those spots where like it starts an hour and a half after the game. So hopefully like we'll get some news here from Miami throughout the day and be able to kind of base our decisions on, whether or not Butler is going to play, because like it just makes a huge difference. If Butler doesn't play, this game likely stays close. It offers a ton of fantasy value just because this game stays close. It's a matchup against this terrible defensive team. So like Butler makes a huge difference. Butler in or out, Bam is a fantastic play here. Like in or out, Bam is a guy you could definitely take a shot on here. If Butler sits, Nunn. Butler and Hero both sit Nunn. Goran Dragic, Robinson, Jones Jr., Jay Crowder. We'll have to kind of see. They're playing as we're recording right now, so like we'll have to kind of see what type of rotation they use with Jay Crowder. He was supposed to play on Sunday, so we'll have to kind of see. Because it wasn't Iggy, like he was supposed to play on Sunday too, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think I heard that. I don't know.
I'm pulling it up to see if, because the game's probably like,
yeah, Spolster's basically said like whether he likes it or not, we're gonna have him play.
Crowder played 35 minutes. Iggy played 23 minutes. So
okay,
Crowder is probably one of the top value plays on the slate at 4,500. No reason that he shouldn't play a back-to-back.
I mean, there's no reason they shouldn't play the back-to-back, but if Butler ends up playing on the second end of a back-to-back, like it could give a decrease.
Give Butler the day off. It's Golden State.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Wiggins looks real good. Maybe he makes him a winning team. No, he doesn't.
Duncan Robinson played really well too against Portland.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be it'll be interesting to see what rotation they end up going with. But just wait on news. Like, yeah, we were recording as this game was still finishing up. So, yeah, sorry, trying to process everything from the game. Yeah, no, Crowder is a great value play, I think, regardless. But still, like, waiting on Butler. If Butler's out, then yeah, Crowder, Robinson, maybe Iggy again, although second numbers back-to-back, I don't expect at this point in the season, especially against Golden State. So wouldn't be surprised if they gave him the game off. Yeah, Nunn, Bam, Crowder, Robinson probably.
All right. Golden State. Golden State. Any interest here in Golden State, guys?
Wiggins may continue to keep doing what he's doing, but still a matchup versus Miami. It's not going to be an easy matchup for them. This game could very easily end up turning into a blowout. Like, he's a fine play, but he's really not a great play, especially when you consider the rest of the games on the slate. I don't hate it, but I don't mind it. Like, his last game against the Lakers, he put up 40 points, but he had 5 steals and block. Don't really expect that out of him again. Like, no reason to think that he would end up doing that again. The shot volume may end up being there, especially with the lack of other shot shooters. And in this game, like, don't really expect him. I could see a decent game out of Draymond Green. Chris is priced up too high. Lee, Pascal, Bowman, like, all of them are priced about where they should be. And it's a tough matchup. So I really don't see any of them beating value, and definitely not beating value that you need for a 9-game slate. Wiggins is the only possibility, but the numbers really don't justify playing him. I don't think I'm going to play him. It's probably Draymond Green as a GPP play, and mostly a late swap GPP play if you need to make up some ground and go a little bit different.
All right, let's play the morning grind game, and we will get out of here. Grant, give me your favorite play under 5K to 7X.
Oh gosh, that's super tough considering everyone. I'm trying to remember. There was someone that I was for sure going to end up going with as my play, and I'm trying to. I don't want to say Oladipo because that's just way too obvious, but I may get stuck going with him. Oladipo.
I was taking it if you didn't, so that's fine. I'm going to go with PJ Washington.
Yeah. There could be like 10 guys that end up crushing value under 5K, or there's going to likely be 10 to 15 guys based on the injuries. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Over 8K to go under 5X. Sorry, I couldn't remember the question.
Collins.
All right. I like that one. I think I'm going to go. It's against everything I am, but I'm going to take Trae Young.
I mean, he just played 48 minutes.
Be gassed. Give me your favorite 6X play on the slate.
Man, I really need to start writing down my plays as I go along, because there was someone that I absolutely loved in this spot, and I just can't remember who it is. I don't know. I'll just go with Porzingis.
All right. I'm gonna go with Brogdon. Love the spot for Brogdon. Talked about him a lot when we were going over games. Let's get weird. GPP play of the day.
I guess Jamal Murray.
I like that one. It'd be really interesting to see what his ownership comes in at, but I like that one.
I was gonna say Reggie Jackson just because of his price tag, but I still imagine some people have some ownership in him.
I'm gonna go Ricky Rubio as my Let's Get Weird GPP play of the day. Game selection question, Grant. What's standing out to you today?
I mean, this is more for people with small bankrolls. It's raked decently, but the 50K $1 tournaments, 20 entry max. Like, if you're trying to build a bankroll, like, the up top payout is not that extensive. You're not going to lose a lot of money in any given matchup. It's going to give you a little bit of experience, using a lineup builder or something similar, or even creating 20 entries by hand. Like, it's a minimum 2x payout. 25% of people are paid. Only 2K up top, so you're not going to make a ton of money, but it's a $1 entry. Like, if you're a low bankroll guy, it's a great way to get some experience. And if you're trying out NBA for the first time, it's probably the top thing to do. And you can play multiple lineups, and so you're not just drawing one dead in the water, not putting a ton of money online. But yeah, if you're a low bankroll guy, it's a great thing.
I'm gonna go over to Fanduel today. We have our single entry series going over there on Fanduel right now. The $5 single entry tournament on Fanduel is where the RotoGrinders tournament is going on today. It's the 40K NBA assists, $5 single entry. Pays 23 or 24.7% of the field. Min cash is 2x, top 10's 30%, first place is 10x, or 10%. Like, this is a gorgeous payout or gorgeous tournament structure. The only thing, it's the same thing we're always going to complain about, but the only thing that I could really complain about when looking at this tournament is the rake. But really, like, this is a really, really, really strong tournament for all bankroll players. So make sure you're checking that out. Grant, any final thoughts?
No. Pay attention to injury news. Be ready to eat some chalk tomorrow.
I will tweet out my sharp side play. We don't have a ton of lines out. I went 4 for 4 last week, so I have a 4-win streak going. Did not play on the weekend. Never play on the weekends. NBA usually. So I'll tweet that out. That's going to wrap it up. We'll be back tomorrow talking some more hoops. He is Genie for I am Stevie. Good luck in your contest, and we'll see you then.
See you, kids.